Welcome to Classic 4x4, the podcast for and by truck and 4x4 enthusiasts. I'm your host and founder of Classic 4x4, Chris Piccone. Please make sure to review and subscribe to the podcast on your listening platform. Follow and like Classic 4x4 on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to our channel and check out our episodes on YouTube. Also, please don't hesitate to reach out if we can help you sell your truck or 4x4. Visit classic4x4.com for more details. Thank you for listening and enjoy the episode. Well, hello, Classic 4x4 podcast listeners. I'm your host, Chris Piccone, and I am delighted to introduce Daniel Marcello from Brooklyn Coachworks joining us today for this episode. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, Chris? Good to see you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you joining us today and talk about some of your epic investment quality Defender builds, your background and all that fun stuff. And I also enjoy interviewing people that I know, that I'm acquainted with. You and I have crossed paths, and you're actually not too far away from me, and I've been to your shop before, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get into it, there's a question that I ask, or actually I should probably take a step back and make sure everybody's familiar with Brooklyn Coachworks. Brooklyn Coachworks is a premier investment quality nut and bolt frame off Land Rover Defender restoration shop. You guys build some absolutely amazing stuff, and you are based in Brooklyn, New York, which is not the normal location for a Defender restoration shop, but we're gonna talk a little bit about that. We're gonna talk about your shop too and where it's located. But for all of you that want to check out some of their builds, their shop, some other cool stuff, check them out online at brooklyncoachworks.com. Make sure you follow them on all the social channels at Brooklyn Coachworks. But before we get into it, Daniel, man, there's a question I ask every single guest, and I get a lot of feedback from our listeners because they, for some reason, love this. So I have to ask you, what was your first car?
So, first car was not a 4x4. My first car was a 1990 Acura Integra 2-door. Oh, no, sorry, 4-door. I had the 4-door model. It was red, manual 5-speed. And it was the one that had the, what do they call it? The edgeless, frameless doors. So you had the glass that would come up and kind of meet the body of the car. I love that. I love frameless doors. You could get out like, it was almost like a, Ferrari 308. You get out, your arm could swing around the door and you can shut it. I love that car. It was a manual 5-speed. I think it was a 2.0. Would they have dual overhead cams back then? The thing put out maybe 120, 150 horsepower. Felt like 500 horsepower. It was red. Picked up tons of girls with it. It was phenomenal. And then after that, I had a 91 Honda Accord. So I stayed within the kind of Honda Acura realm. Always loved those cars. You could put sand in the motor, the thing would still run. It was like zero maintenance. Fantastic car. But yeah, that was my first car. Always wanted a Zuzu Trooper. Never got that one. But that was kind of the 4x4 I always looked at. But the Integra was great. I kind of want to buy one now and just kind of reminisce on the old days of having a cool high school car. So yeah, it was good.
I mean, if you were a kid that went to high school in the 90s, like that was the hottest car out there. Yeah. Anybody that drove either an Integra or remember when the CLs came out, like a little bit later in the night, like the CLs and the early TLs, like, and then TLs. They had the Type S's. Yeah, that was hot. That was definitely a hot car.
Acura was that kind of like, and it was kind of new at the time. It was like the echelons of like, wow, this is like not a baller car, but like a nice style Honda. It was a pretty cool car to have. I agree.
A step below a baller car.
Exactly. It wasn't a baller yet. Exactly.
That's awesome, man. So how'd you get into trucks, man? Like, you just don't like out of nowhere, build a investment quality, Land Rover Defender restoration shop. Like, where did you get into them?
So I grew up in a little town upstate New York called Enwell, New York. My buddy at the time had a Jeep Wrangler Sahara Edition. Loved Jeeps. They're fantastic trucks. We always drove around, went off-roading, and I just absolutely loved it. It was the 50th anniversary, Land Rover's 50th anniversary. They had a big gathering upstate New York at Greek Peak. They just recently had the 75th there. Greek Peak is nearby my hometown, and all these guys are coming in from all over the country, parking their cars in restaurants and bars, and going to the off-road event. And I was, I think, 18 at the time, and I saw a green Defender 90 like in my neighborhood, and next to the Jeep, it just looked small. I mean, they're also bigger cars than a Jeep Wrangler at the time was. So just the presence of it was just like, I mean, this thing looked like it was straight out of Africa, looked like it went around the world 100 times. And it just brought that sense of adventure to me, which I was kind of looking at. And it's not that Jeep never did that. Jeep products are phenomenal, but the Land Rover just had like a mystique of rare, different, something you just couldn't buy off the shelf. At the time, yes, you could buy them. I think this was probably a 94, 95, 97 NES truck. So they were like new at this time. And it just was just different. And I liked that differentness of it. And that kind of like, tickled me a little bit to be like, oh man, I want to see what this kind of car is. And then I remember after that, researching it a bit, seeing Camel Trophy videos, seeing what these cars actually did in the middle of nowhere. And that was just like, wow, I kind of need this in my life. Not that, I wasn't an adventure guy this time. I was just, still in high school, didn't know what the hell I was doing in my life. But that sense of like, you could go anywhere with this car around the world really, really, really caught my attention versus Broncos, Jeeps, whatever that may be. And I don't know what that was. It just felt like a world car that would go anywhere. So yeah, that's why I kind of fell in love with it.
That's awesome, man. That's a cool story. It all starts with a passion, and it's crazy that just happened to be that 50th anniversary happened to be right in Greek Peak and spurred that passion.
Yeah,
Man.
it happened to be in my neighborhood, which was amazing. Yeah, and that kind of spurred that on. Obviously, went to school, went to RIT, got a good degree, came down to the city, and I got a good job. And like within like 2 weeks of getting like paid, I was like, I need to buy that car. So I ended up, yeah, which is like not the smartest thing to do. Finance the car. I think it was 20. My first one I got, actually bought it on eBay from a guy in North Carolina. I paid $29,000 for it. Retail back in '94 for this specific model, I think was like $29,500. So I was like, it was like paying retail again for it. Another 10 years after they came out.
And what kind of truck was it?
It was a '94 NES Defender 90, number 916.
What color?
Coniston green, white top.
Coniston green, awesome.
Coniston green. No, it didn't have a top on it. So it basically was a soft top. And I was like, all right, soft top's cool. I ended up buying a top, a POE top for it, which had the white top on it, the Alpine white top on it. Full side. It was great. But yeah, bought that, drove it up flew down with my buddy, Dave, who was kind of into cars. I was like, listen, man, this is not a great car. It probably like, might overheat, might do something weird. You're kind of a mechanic guy. Let's go down and get this car. We fly down, we pick it up. The guy looks at me like, you're driving this up to New York right now? I'm like, yeah, man, like, 25-year-old kid, like, this is my dream car. I'm going to rip it up to New York. Drove it about 13 hours up to New York. I get to the George Washington Bridge, and we're about to pay the toll. And the toll booth guy like looks at me. He's like, yo, the guy in front of you just paid for your toll. I was like, no shit. I was like, man, this car is awesome. Drove it home, had a blast with it. Yeah, and that was kind of my first car that I had. I love it. I still have it. It's my baby. I would never get rid of it. Modified the hell out of it. Went to, crazy 4-inch lift, 35-inch tires, everything you could ever do to it, 14-inch remote shocks, like everything, lockers. And now I'm back down to kind of a stock vehicle, which is fine. I tell this to a lot of people. It's the wizard. It's not the wand. It's like the driver. It's not your car. Like, yes, put 37s on it. You'll go anywhere. But like, I like wheeling with a car with 31-inch tires and like actually putting it where it has to go to get it where you have to be. So, yeah, I like not breaking my car anymore. I like the simplicity of it. I like small tires. Yeah, I just like driving them. And the perfect model of that, I feel the perfect kind of configuration is keeping it stock where it just drives perfectly forever. So yeah, still have it. It's in the parking lot. I literally need to restore it. But yeah, being a guy that restores cars for other people, mine would be the last one to be restored. So give me some
It's the
time.
way
Give me some.
it's the way it goes, man. It's
Yeah.
what's that, like the shoemaker's child never has shoes, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It'll get there one of these days.
So you were working in the city, you were a creative, right? Working for like an agency or in-house or something?
Yeah, yeah. Worked at all these major ad agencies. Worked at RGA, Ogilvy, Publicis, Razorfish. I was on a creative side, design side. I would work with brands and redo the website, redo their branding, redo their voice. And yeah, love doing that. Love doing it. It was great. Paid great money, but it was always my passion to be into design, but like also just had this passion of being obsessed with these cars. And it was kind of like 50-50. It was like, all right, I'm gonna do this job 5 days a week, and then on my weekend for the next 2 days I'm just gonna go wheeling, go off-road, go use my car, build it, take the engine out, put a new motor in, put the TDI in, lift it. So I was just like, which I think a lot of people are in the 4x4 world. It's like, yo, that's my baby. You don't have to be the 4x4 world. You could be a classic car guy where it's your
Yeah.
job is there, but you like love your passion. So yeah, kind of just always loved these cars, drove them all around the world. Yeah, just really appreciated the car, but also appreciated my job. I still love design. I still love aesthetic. I still love creating things that way. So yeah, worked in the city for about, oh God, maybe 18 years in that profession. And then I started a Land Rover magazine with two of my friends. So that went pretty well. But yeah, we could talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, so you started the Land Rover magazine, which is cool. And then how did that transition into you having a build shop? 'Cause
So
you're
yeah,
how many years have you had the build shop for?
we incorporated maybe 7-8 years ago, 2018, I think it was, a little before the pandemic. We were also doing the magazine at that time. So, I was freelancing as my normal job. The magazine was operational. I think that went about 5-6 years. It was called Alloy and Grit. It was with two of my friends, Brian and Steve. Those guys were the writers, editors. I was the photography guy. I was the layout guy. So yeah, that was really great. It was 4 issues a year, paper, 100 pages. We had it in Barnes and Noble, sold all around the world. Everybody loved it. I'd travel to Spain. I'd travel to Italy. I'd go to, you know, countries all over, and people were just like, "Here's a car. Come drive this with me. Here's the Land Rover club. Let's hang out. Let's do something. Go down to Costa Rica and hang out with those guys." So it was nice. It brought me kind of out of the Land Rover world in America, which is pretty big, but brought it to world, all around the world. And it was nice to just meet other people that were into these cars. So that had a good run of about 6 years. COVID basically ended up killing it. Barnes and Noble, shut up shop, like everything else, shut up shop.
Mhm.
So nobody could go get the magazine. Land Rover wasn't giving cars to people to drive. So it was kind of, again, magazines weren't the biggest popular item at that time. So, we were doing well, but it wasn't like, you take a hit like COVID and it killed a lot of magazines out there. So that ended up killing it. At that time too, I was restoring cars for people. I was building cars. We were maybe doing like 5 a year out of the Brooklyn shop. It was going well. People were interested in them. We sold a bunch. It kind of stepped up, and then COVID ended up happening, and everybody had excess amounts of money where people were going to plays, people weren't going to dinner. So that really kind of ramped up Brooklyn Coachworks for us.
Yeah, I mean, it took the collector, COVID in general took the collector vehicle market to the next level, and it
Oh
just
yeah.
drove the truck market through the roof. I mean, you and I are about the same age, and our generation has an insatiable appetite for trucks and 4x4s, and it's just driving that market.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, car
that's
market was huge. Car market, watch market. It was a weird, like, people went and got what they wanted tangible wise, because you couldn't go get your go to this play or go to this restaurant. It was like, I'm stuck at home. I can't travel anywhere. it's like, especially New Yorkers. I don't have a car. Half of them didn't have cars, so they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go buy my dream car, wherever it may be, Porsche to old Bronco." So yeah, it was really good for everybody in that sense of anybody selling a tangible item. It was horrible in the sense of having to build them in time. That was the only bad part. It was like, yeah, we'll build you this in 6 to 8 months, and it's like I can't get. I couldn't get tires. It wasn't the tire. It wasn't BF Goodrich, the manufacturer. It was it was the rubber places. The places
Yep.
making the rubber couldn't supply BF Goodrich or you know AC units. There was a lot of just Land Rovers are small. The aftermarket and the OEM spec stuff is very limited. It's not like Jeep market where you could pretty much get anything you wanted. So it was pretty tough where everything kind of sold out. Those guys weren't making stuff. So yeah, it was a little bit difficult where timelines kind of pushed out. But I think that was with everybody that was building a Land Rover at that time. It was just difficult to get pieces and parts. But we got everything done for clients of ours. Yeah, most people were understanding during that time, which I think everybody had to be understanding during the COVID era. So
Of
yeah.
course. I mean, it was what it was. I mean, that's cool. But it's an interesting story. I didn't realize that that's how you transitioned. That's how you ended up building out Brooklyn Coachworks. Let's talk about your Brooklyn shop, because for our listeners out there to kind of how do we explain to them, and how do we visualize that because I've been to this shop before, and it's awesome, it's impeccable, like it's super cool, but like it is smack in the middle of Williamsburg, Brooklyn. But like, to explain to a listener what that means, like this is unheard of, like absolutely unheard of. And not only is it in like smack in the middle of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, it is in the middle of, it's like on Kent Avenue, like in the middle of everywhere you want to be, the hustle and bustle. So like, how did you find this space?
So, good buddy of mine, he had this space. So he's like, "Hey, do you want to?" Brooklyn Coach was established. I was already in Brooklyn myself, but I didn't have a workshop to be doing these things. So my buddy's like, "All right, like I will hook you up in this old warehouse. It's like the last old building on Kent Avenue." I was like, "Sure." So I came in, I looked at it. It was like this building too is funny. I get people that still walk in here like I used to party there all the time back in the '90s. So. Um, Weird old building. I mean, it's still wood truss. There's no I beams in here. It's wooden beams. I mean, you can see right here. This is all wood stuff. It is the probably one of the last oldest buildings in the neighborhood. It's the oldest one on Kent Avenue. Kent Avenue, if I can describe this to the listeners, is kind of like Rodeo Drive now. It is like Beverly Hills. Um, Hermes is a block away from me. Dior is 2 blocks away from me. All of the top brands are weirdly surrounding me and a couple of blocks away, and then there's like shitty old Brooklyn Coachworks in the corner, or like old Land Rovers. People come by, they're like, "Is this an Army depot? Like, what is?" They think I'm a collector. They're like, "Are these all yours?" I'm like, "No, we're a dealership. Like, why would these be all mine? And I live in this weird building." So, yeah, yeah. If people, we have people all around the world flying to New York, which is great. People from Brazil, Australians, Spain, they come in. They want to see the shop, which is really great because New York is a giant hub for everybody. But yeah, we're in the hottest borough, the hottest street, like the hottest neighborhood right now, and it's pretty funny. I open my gates, and there's probably 100 people that walk in every day, and people are in awe. They're like, "What is going on here? Why is there all these like old cars everywhere? Like these cars are beautiful, but like, yeah, it boggles people's mind. They don't know that like you're building cars here to sell, and your rent is very expensive, and like it's like people only knew like half of. I mean, yeah, I told somebody the other day, I was like, if I wrote a book on just being here and like operating out of this spot, like, oh my god, the stories I have of weirdo crackheads like going through my garbage, finding probably exhaust, and like all just weirdest stuff happens in this neighborhood all day long. And yeah, we have to deal with it as a business. So yeah, it's very
You
interesting.
know what? It's awesome space. Like, but that space has been there before the internal combustion engine had
Yeah, yeah.
even been invented. So, like, what do you think it was? Was it a stable beforehand?
I heard it was an old no, it was an old sewing factory back in the day. And
Hmm.
then somebody else told me it's something else. But yeah, it's they will knock this down one day and put another high rise up here. You know, it's all $1 million apartments by me.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything is wooden in this place. It's all wood. It's all beautiful beams. I mean, it is like a clubhouse. People come in here and this is like, you know, half the buyers come in here with their wives, and their wives are like, "My God, this wood is amazing." They're like, want to take the like wood floors with them, and I'm like, well, when they condemn the building and it all gets broken down, there's going to be a lot of reclaimed wood coming out of this spot. So yeah, it's a special spot. It's weirdly like an explosion of me. I can't have all this in my apartment. So, you know, I put all of my crap here. There's, you know, if you came in, you came in, you saw everything that's
Yeah.
just, you know, Land Rover crap everywhere, like old stuff, new stuff, places I've been. It's kind of, yeah, it's like a weird like clubhouse in a weird way. Yeah, I have to be here every day. For me, it doesn't matter. It's kind of, you know, a nuisance in a weird way, but yeah, we get a lot of interested people all around the world come in and, you know, buy T-shirts, buy hats, just kind of look around the cars, which is really nice. Yeah, I kind of enjoy that where it's like a not a mecca, but it's like, yeah, come to Brooklyn Coachworks. You can hang out here and, you know, we can have a beer and chat a little bit.
It's definitely cool. It's like, and the reason trying to give our listeners a little background was I actually had brought a client to look at one of your builds, and my client is a real estate developer, and he's like looking around because if you stand in your parking lot and you look around, it's all brand new
Yeah,
mid-rise luxury condo and apartment buildings, and your building's like the last original
yeah.
Williamsburg, Brooklyn, like wood
Spray
and
painted
masonry.
up. Oh
Yes,
yeah, my
exactly.
exterior is horrible. Yeah, yeah. There's
And
paint
my
everywhere.
client is like looking around and he's like, how is this thing still standing? How is it not a high rise luxury like
Yeah,
condo building like in this neighborhood? Like this is insane. He was
yeah,
absolutely enamored. So,
yeah.
but
They're
you
actually
have,
they're selling the
you're saying,
building, so
sorry.
we do got to get out. I think end of the year we're going to move, but they have new building management. I don't think they've sold the building yet, but yeah, we're looking for a spot further up in Brooklyn or Queens right now, just because I know this is going to go away. I mean, it's you've been here. It's this is just a sitting time bomb of like yes, there will be a giant $1 billion building coming in soon. So yeah, there'll be a matter of time. We will be moving.
And you cannot replicate that space anywhere else in the
No,
city. Like that's the
no,
last
yeah,
space like it anywhere in New York City. I
correct.
can guarantee that. So that's cool. But as you've grown the business, you've really started to, obviously most of your stuff is ROWs that are sourced in Europe, and building them in Europe is much more effective, much more efficient, but also, being able to source different materials and parts and stuff is also more efficient, and you get a higher quality product too. So you talk to us about your operation in Italy
Yeah, yeah.
outside of Brooklyn.
Yep. So we incorporated over there, Brooklyn Coachworks SRL. I'm an Italian citizen, dual citizen. My father's from Italy, so I got my dual citizenship maybe 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, go over there all the time. I have family over there. Met up with a bunch of good friends of mine that build cars, and I was like, let's incorporate over here. Let's start building. About half these cars over there. ROWs are everywhere over there. That's where Land Rovers are. We don't have them here. So sourcing them over there was a lot easier in a way than having a shop there now. Before we would go, source one over there and it'd be a premium price, and then I'd have to bring it over here. So like all of the logistics was a lot more expensive. And now having a shop over there, we'll have old farmers come up and they're like, listen, I got 10 of these on my property. You want them all? I'm like, yeah, let's, make a deal and let's get all these cars. So yeah, it's a lot easier to build a car over there. We also incorporate down in Virginia as well. We do maybe between the three shops, they're all kind of split up in the sense of who takes on what amount that they need to be done. But yeah, Italy's fantastic. The all of our leather interiors are done in Italy. All of our leather is sourced from this tannery in Italy that does all of Ferrari. They have all of Lamborghini stuff. So the leather is incredible. The craftsmen that put this leather together on your seats, your dash is just phenomenal. They skim it down to be about 1 to 2 millimeters thick. Laid it on. All of the stitching is incredible. Yeah, I tell people like you're never going to get a better leather interior than what we do. And the work over there, they're all craftsmen. Everybody in Italy is a craftsman. There's other countries that people source these out of, but I just feel Italians just have an eye for everything. So, we do about 50% over there. The New York shop still does maybe 50-ish, I'd say 25-ish. The Virginia shop we just opened last year, that does all of our engine changes as well as Brooklyn. We also get a lot of people that have a Defender now. They're, hey, I got an NAS and needs restoration work. I got an ROW needs restoration work. We'll send that down to Virginia. The Virginia shop is as big as this building, which you saw. So,
Hmm.
it's in the middle of nowhere. I have a ton of space there. I can restore your car down there versus having in Brooklyn. Brooklyn now has almost been kind of the last of the car getting finished where, I have to drive it. I got to drive all of our cars. My ass in your car is worth a lot. I feel if this is out, this is not shifting correctly, the placement of this is not perfect. So I need to drive every one of these just to make sure that your car is perfect. We still do engine changes here. We have probably 2 to 3 we need to get done. Obviously, before we move, I need to get these cars done as well to go to a new spot. So yeah, this spot has been kind of like, let's finish the stuff we have now. Let's move out of here. But between the 3 shops, everything's operating super smooth right now. I love it. Our product has never been more perfect than it is now. Between the Italians, between us and Virginia, yeah, I'm super proud of what we're doing. Everybody in the Land Rover community, says, hey, if you want a car, go to Brooklyn Coachworks, have Daniel take care of you. Yeah, pretty proud of where we are with what we've done. There's other guys out there to build cars. They're fantastic as well. Everybody, when you're first starting out, has a decent car. Not probably the best thing, but over the years, yeah, we've totally refined our stuff where it's, I just feel like everything is perfect. Everything's spot on. All of my, screws are teed. It's like, being meticulous as best you can. But I love giving somebody their dream car that's perfect, that has the right galvanized chassis, the right galvanized bulkhead, Puma style doors. Everything's new where that car will probably outlast them. I've seen these cars, horrible examples of these cars, rotted out chassis, whatever it may be. But having that experience, going in rebuilding it, how to make it better than what Land Rover even did from their factory. So I think that's a lot of testament to why we build one of the most perfect cars out there, and I think that's why people come to us, is because it's what Land Rover would have built if they could have done this stuff with all the metal treatments, different materials. Yeah, it's just super proud of where we are right now in the product.
I can attest to it. I've seen it firsthand. It is absolutely impeccable. All the builds that I've seen, and obviously, like you said, earlier builds for any build shop are not always like perfect, but you evolve and you get better, and that's what just who we are as humans and business people. So
Yep.
the builds that I saw, a month or two ago were second to none, but also at a price point that is also very attractive too. And I think that also sets you apart from, this is my personal opinion, just I'm so
Yep.
market focused, and I introduce so many of my clients to investment quality build shops, and when I talk about investment quality, I'm talking frame off, full, everything's touched, frame off, nut and bolt, full restoration, every system,
Yep.
the powertrain, every inch of the body of the frame of the suspension, every suspension braking component is touched new. And for an investment quality Rover builder, I mean, you're at a very favorable price point. So I do see why
Yeah.
you're providing a top tier product at a price point that is definitely more favorable than a lot of the other builders out there. But every builder has their own, like, little niche. Your niche is like, you keep it real, man. That's what I
Yeah.
love about them. You keep them real, you keep them classic, but with all the cool modern amenities,
Yeah.
which
And
is
they
cool.
and they didn't need a lot. Like I always tell this to people, like Land Rovers are great cars the standard way they are. They only needed like 10 to 20% more. We do LT1 motors, LS3 motors, manual, 10-speed automatics, whatever you want, Cummins motor. Those are all like, yeah, it ups the car to be, 500 or 460 horsepower motor with a 10-speed automatic. Fantastic to drive. But keeping it simple, keeping it original. The tires and wheels we fit are the tires and wheels I put on my personal car. I could drive through Brooklyn. I could drive to Maine. I could drive cross country. We just did a trip to Colorado. I drove a 300 TDI out there, wheeled all of Colorado mountain passes, had a great time doing it. I think a lot of people come to us because of what we make, but also who I am, in the sense of, Daniel's been everywhere with these cars around the world. He uses them. It's a testament of, I've been to Iceland, I've been to Australia, I've done Tunisia, I've done the Sahara Desert in our cars. And I know that this car will be able to go through anything you put it through, but also you can drive around Brooklyn and look great. So it does, I tell people it does 50% of looking luxury, but the other 50% is you can go wheel the shit out of this car and it'll get you home because it's not overdone. It doesn't have, 20-inch rims on it that, are not great for off-roading. Doesn't have giant Chevy axle wheels that pulls everywhere. They're great the way they are. You just had to do a little bit of refinement. Leather interior, you don't need leather interior, but leather's phenomenal. I have some people like, why are you putting leather interiors in a Land Rover? I'm like, are your shoes vinyl? No, your shoes are leather. Like, spot on. Like, you want some beautiful leather? Like, leather will outlast vinyl all day long. The galvanizing we do, galvanized chassis, galvanized knuckles. All the steering components are galvanized. A480 stainless steel hardware. It's the most highest grade tensile strength hardware, but also the most stainless resistant to salt and all that kind of rust and all that. I tell people chassis below is like our art form, and not a lot of people see chassis below. Nobody even cares about chassis below. But all day long, I could smear peanut butter on my chassis and I'll eat it off that because that thing is brand new. People can do paint jobs. People can do leather. Our leather is better than most, anybody out there. But it's just, I think our art form is selling or building a car that is pretty standard to Land Rover's terms. You can have an actual Land Rover. It doesn't feel different. It doesn't feel like you're pushing into a Jeep realm, pushing into a G-Wagon realm. It's buying an authentic Land Rover. So, yeah.
That's cool, man. They're great trucks, and your builds are pretty awesome. And I want to talk about some of your hallmark builds because everybody that owns a build shop has that one or two builds that they did where they were like, damn, this thing is bonkers. But before we do that, I meant you just brought this up and made me think about it. When I was at your shop a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, there was a Camel Trophy out there in negligible condition, but is that a legit Camel Trophy?
That is a legit Camel Trophy. I bought that from a guy. He didn't really know what he had. Basically, this lady on the internet was or I follow her on Instagram. She's got 2 followers, whatever. Not 2, but she doesn't have many followers. She's going around this guy's lot, and she's videoing it, and it goes by this yellow truck, and I DM'd her. Is that a Camel Trophy? The yellow is pretty distinct. And then she sends me a couple photos, and I'm like, man, that looks like a Camel Trophy. And most Camel Trophies are pretty, disgusting and destroyed.
Of course.
Photos looked horrible. I was like, that's probably got to be a legit one. So she gave my number to the guy. He never got a hold of me till a month later. And I was like, oh my God, out of the blue, the guy calls me. And I'm like, I couldn't remember. I'm like, oh yeah, I saw, you have one of these. He's like, yeah, I have one. Looking to get rid of it. I was like, yeah, all right, give me the chassis number. I want to, go to the British Motoring Museum and just run the numbers on it. And it came up as painted from the factory, Sanglo yellow in 1988, and it was exported to Brazil that year. So it did the 89 Brazil event, or the Amazon event, 89 Amazon event. Then from there, went to do the 92 Guyana event. And then from there, it went and did the 95 Mundo Maya event. So it did 3 events. Which is pretty special. Most do 2 as a support truck. So this one did 3 events. And then a boys club in, I think it was Guatemala or Honduras had it. And they kind of painted some of it blue. And then from there went to the States. So yeah, it's funny too because one of these guys on the internet is like, he saw it. He's like, man, you Americans are always buying up all these camel trophies. I'm like, man, this thing was an American's car. This went to South America, went to Central America, and now it's in North America. That's our car. It's left-hand drive. It's not a British truck. Like this did the Americas. So yeah, I'm happy. It's a Defender 110 camel trophy. Well, not Defender. It's a Land Rover, technically a Land Rover 110. And it did 3 events. Yeah, it's phenomenal. I restored the whole entire driveline. The driveline is mint, but just kept the body looking like shit because you can't ever replace the dents and the stickers and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, super cool truck.
I had never actually seen one in person before, like in metal. And I was kind of like, when I was there with my client was like, you think that's legit? And I'm like, dude, look at it. I'm like, and also if you could see the plate on the hood, right? I was like, I'm pretty positive that's a legit camel. He's like, I've never seen one before. I was like, I've never seen one either.
You could put your fist through the bulkhead, so you know it's legit.
That's a good.
You're poking holes through. You're like, this is pretty legit. There's no body left on it. So yeah,
where did you find that in the States?
No, a guy in Canada had it, so we imported it out of Canada. But yeah, it's been fantastic. I love it. I love driving it. I drove it into the city the other day. And this like hipster kid comes up walking. He's like, man, that's awesome. You guys selling camels out of that? He thought we were like an event truck, like giving away camel cigarettes.
Oh, like cigarettes.
Yeah. Like you would you'd pull up to like an ice cream truck. Like he thought I was like a Camel, like giving away cigarettes for like a brand like Camel. I'm like, no, man, this truck's been through hell, bro. Like, come on. So
that's wild. That's cool, man. But let's switch gears. Let's talk about like, what's that like, you've been building for, a little less than a decade now, formally, but like, what is that one hallmark build that you've done, whether it was, a spec build that you just, spec'd out yourself, or was a bespoke build for a client? Like, what was the one that sticks out in your mind, and talk about it?
We've had a couple. I mean, this latest, this white one we just finished. There's a white one and a black one down here. They're both matte, which is crazy. The one's Alpine white matte, and the guy went with an LT1 motor, 460 horsepower, 465 foot-pounds of torque, 10-speed automatic. The thing just rips through gears. Dual fuel tanks in it. Black leather interior, just like standard, but like simple and like effective. It's kind of like a crazy weapon. There's a black one down here, same setup, same motor, same 10-speed in it. And then the guy went with a all white leather interior. So they almost are like, I got to take photos tomorrow of both of them because they're just like literally juxtaposed cars color wise, but same motor train. We did
what wheelbase are they?
Both 90s too. Yeah, both 90s.
D90s. Cool.
D90s. I did a 110 crew cab. I call it the Super Leggero. It's a super lightweight, like the Lamborghini does one. It was a 110, no carpets, half doors. 110 crew cab is just your 4 doors, and you have like a truck bed in the back. LS3 manual. Love this one. Had nothing in it. Stripped down 110. The thing was a rocket ship. Fantastic car. And then we did the Defender 110 high cap 1 ton. So this was like a weird fantasy of mine to make a 1 ton version. Land Rover used to make these series 2s and 3s 1 ton versions. There are basically 1 ton axles on these cars, basically Salisbury axles that you would have. Well, Salisbury being Dana 60s on American cars. So I got 2 Salisbury axles, front and rear, and I found 1 ton wheels from an old 1 ton 109. Fitted those, and then the 1 ton trucks back in the day, the Series 1 tons had 9.0 tires. So Michelin 9.0s was a 36-inch tire. It's a fairly big tire for a standard
car. Big tire, yeah.
36s. Now you're getting 35s, and this is back in the 70s. You had a 36-inch tire on a Land Rover. So in going with that 36, I was like, all right, I got these 11.0s in the back. 11.0 Michelins are 38s. So I put those on there. The tires are insane. They look like chainsaws. They're fucking crazy. But I also wanted to build the biggest car that was driven by kind of a driveline that could allow for those tires and that amount of force. So you needed 1 ton axles under You see a lot of guys out there build like the Spectre version, Land Rover, the Defender 130, 110 Spectre version, and those only have 37s on it. So I was
Mm,
like, I'm going to go with a 38 and a Michelin, which is the Michelin's kind of the go-to tire for Land Rovers back in the day. All the series cars had Michelin,
mhm.
7.50 XEL. So I wanted to go with this Michelin XEL, but the biggest one I could find was the 11.0. So it's a weird build. You Land Rover guys are like, nod the head to be like, there's never a Defender never a Defender 1 ton before, but it's interesting to see what Land Rover would have made a 1 ton version of it. So
Mhm.
it's kind of a showpiece. People come here from all over and like, that's the 1 ton. I'm like, yeah, it's the 1 ton. They're like, this is crazy. Everybody's underneath it looking at what you did to make this work. Yeah, it's got a 5-inch lift. It's kind of ridiculous, but yeah, you feel like a fucking boss driving it around. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that much. Yeah, it's like you're just like ding, 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 all the knobs hitting the streets around Brooklyn. It's a bit ridiculous, but it's
Did you
fun.
build that for yourself or for a client?
I built it for myself. Yeah, we've had a lot of interested parties in it, but yeah, hasn't really. I haven't really tried to sell it. I kind of just keeping it for myself until some guy wants it. I'll probably sell it, but yeah, it's kind of just a fun, fuck off kind of car.
Yeah, dude, it's
Yeah,
badass, man.
yeah,
It's
it's
definitely
cool.
badass. Yeah, you have some cool stuff that is available right now which is how you and I kind of got acquainted and kind of give our listeners a little step back. Is I had asked Daniel to be on the podcast, and I was like, hey man, let's just go grab lunch one day. I'm only an hour away from your shop down in coastal New Jersey. And I was like, I'm in the city a couple days a week anyway. Like, let me just pop in and I'll run over to Brooklyn and we'll have lunch one day. And we had pizza at F&F,
Yeah.
which if any of our listeners out there that are OG, like classic 4x4 podcast listeners, F&F is my cousin Frank's restaurant in Brooklyn, one of his
Phenomenal
restaurants.
pizza. I haven't even been there. I was like, yo, this shit's good. Yeah, I'm going
Yeah,
back.
I mean, they got
Yeah.
best pizza in New York like a couple
Oh yeah.
years ago. And what's funny is like when you roll in there sometimes, like it's like a cast of characters. Like Matty Matheson will be in there, like Christian Petroni will be in there, like just walking around with my cousin. You're what is going on? They just had Jimmy Fallon's. He hosted Jimmy Fallon's 50th birthday there.
Oh shit. No,
50th
no
birthday party.
joke.
Yeah, like last week. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
so we grabbed a slice of pizza, and it just was like, hey, I want to have you on the podcast. Just want to get to know you, see if there's any synergies, opportunities. Like, obviously people are always coming to build shops. When they build a truck, they come back and they're like, hey, I want to sell it, which is where a lot of my clients come from, right? So
Yeah.
next thing you know, you had mentioned to me, you had a couple trucks in inventory and that weren't
Yeah.
called for. And I had just casually mentioned one of my clients who's a Land Rover collector. And he was like, can we go see it? I was
Let's go
like,
check it out. Let's go to Brooklyn. Yeah.
he's like, it's in Brooklyn. It's not too far. Like, let's go check it out. And that was actually a Defender 130 that you guys have done in stone
Yeah.
gray that has like that beautiful, supple Italian leather with white piping. The truck is just absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful.
One
It's
130s
immaculate.
and 130s are they're not rare, but they're different in the sense. It's like the American pickup truck that we have. It's like it's a 1500 series pickup truck, 4 doors, truck bed in the back. Yeah, 300 TDI, fantastic truck. We have a brown mohair canvas cover on the back, super
Gorgeous.
gorgeous, just like beautiful, beautiful car. With that one, I have a TD5, all Alpine white TD5. We're getting into the TD5s now, which is great. The
Mhm.
TD5 motor is a 99 motor, so they're importable now. It's I love my 300 TDIs, but the TD5 is just a little bit more power, a little bit quieter of a motor, a little bit more faster, a little more refined. It's that BMW era. Your wiring is all kind of BMW, where it's weatherproofing and all that. So yeah, TD5, we're getting into a lot of TD5 builds for people. White TD5 right now. I have the
What
it's a
wheelbase is the white TD5? It's a 90, right?
90 Defender 90.
Yeah.
I have a
Yep.
Defender 110 two door technically because it's a soft top, full
Mhm.
black soft top, full roll cage on it, which is the 110 wheelbase, which is pretty cool. I think it's got seating for like 11 in it or something. It's got the bench seats in the back. It's got two of the long bench seats in the back. That's got a 4.6 liter Rover V8 and 4-speed automatic. That motor is kind of out of the Disco 2 we had here, the 4.6, which is kind of
Mhm.
the largest of that Rover era. And then we have a Sanglo yellow, which is the same kind of color, same paint code as the Camel Trophy that I have, and that's a Defender 90. That one in the 110 soft top 2-door are down in the West Palm Beach showroom right now. And then the 130s here, and then the TD5 90s also here. So yeah, the West Palm Beach too. We just opened that maybe this kind of summer, which is great. Summertime, West Palm Beach. Nobody's down there right now, but we will probably be opening it up, hosting events down there. I'll probably be down there more in October, November, December, leading into kind of, when all the snowbirds go down there, and there's New Yorkers more down there. But yeah, it's kind of going to be our new showroom down there. So yeah.
That's pretty cool. That is. And didn't you used to have a showroom on Bleecker Street back in the day too, which is like
Yeah.
even more wild.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is like my like.
I'm a lucky guy.
I lived in New York City for many years, right? Like, so I can picture this, and it's wild for me, let alone somebody that's never been or has just come to New York every once in a while. To have like showrooms and shops in these locations is like absolutely unheard of.
Yeah. So we had it was supposed to be a pop up too. My buddy who gave me this building was like, "Listen, I got a spot in Bleecker if you want to come in." I was like, "All right, we'll try it out." It was on Bleecker and at the end of Marlborough. Marlborough stops right at Bleecker. Lafayette's right next door to that street next door. So yeah, he gave me the spot. It was an old theater. So the back
Mhm.
room was this giant theater, like huge, like, seating, all, enormous. And then the front was a ticket booth area. So we had the ticket booth area. I went in there with my good friends at Jane Motorcycle. They did, their motorcycle apparel out front. And I had the side part that had this giant bay window with a beautiful Land Rover in there. And it was awesome. You would drive by and be like, what is this Defender 90 sitting in this, on Bleecker Street, a blue one, a black one, a white one. We, have them in rotation all the time. And the funniest thing is too, like the only way to get the car in was drive up these 3 steps that went through this door, and the door was 74 inches wide, and the Defender 90 with the side view mirrors pulled in is 72 inches wide. So I had an inch on both sides, and it was the biggest, like, people would just stop. We would pull up, and I had to drive that car and put it in low range and just ding, 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 trying to get up these steps, and you would get it in, and you would be an inch on both sides. Everybody would stop. Videos, thousands of people out just waiting for me to like hit this car. And it was, I don't know if I haven't seen any of them, but I'm just waiting for somebody to be like, here's this video of this guy trying to pull this stupid car into this little space. Yeah, it was, and I probably hit 50% of them. We'd always nick a little, nick the side of one of them, and I'd pull it out, and I'd have to bring it to my paint guy and touch it up again. Yeah, it was pretty difficult to get the car in there. We'd get it in jack stand, get it into the placement, and show it to everybody. But it was a beautiful bay window. And then the other thing too is we're next to Kith. Kith is huge. Kith is like New York's like clothing company. They would have a line around the block, and I'm like, Ronnie, can we put this line this other way that goes by our spot, so everybody's got to wait in line to like look at our cars? So yeah, it was crazy. We shared the same building that Kith was in. Yeah, super cool spot. The pop-up ended up going for about 3 to 4 years. This December it ended. They sold the building. New owners of the building, so they kicked everybody out. So yeah, we're out of that spot now. But yeah, the West Palm Beach will be a really good spot to be in. So looking forward to that one.
It's just super cool to see these like classic Land Rovers just out of their element in the middle of a city in these spaces that were never meant really for vehicles, which is so cool. I mean, it's just it's mind blowing for me.
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to have like horses there, and like then we put cars there, and then we're putting cars in buildings. So yeah, pretty interesting for sure.
That's cool. Well, as we kind of get into the end here, what does the future hold for Brooklyn Coachworks? You working on anything cool? What's going on in the future?
Yeah, same. Just taking orders for people, still building. We do all custom builds. So you email me, give me a call. We'll build your custom Land Rover to your specifications. We do also just start building them ourselves and have a couple that are in inventory that are getting done. It's interesting because you'll start to build one that's Coniston green or Keswick green, and some guy calls you up. Oh, the one you had on the website, you have it. And I'm like, well, we're building a couple right now. I can save you this one, or you can take this build and modify it as you want. But no, just kind of focusing on the Defender line. We used to do a couple of Range Rovers a year. We used to do a couple of Discoveries, a couple of series. But, I can build a Defender perfect right now. And I'm just trying to focus on that. Defender 90s, 110s, 130s, all various styles, crew cabs, high caps, anything you want, convertibles. We do it all. Engine conversions have been a big thing for us now. We're doing a lot of TD5s, the LT1 motor. We're loving that right now over the LS3. Yeah, anything you want, we can make it for you. Yeah, it's just been kind of great. I love doing trips now. We're trying to get into it where, I have a couple of cars that we can send out to Colorado, California, and just do trips with these cars and kind of showcase them in their elements more. I think people love to see them. Back when I was running the magazine, I would drive these all around the world. Now have a company that has these cars, so I should start, shipping these around the world and driving them. So, yeah, trying to get more into the outdoor space and show these cars what what their capabilities are, as just not a beautiful car that we build, but you can drive this thing anywhere and have a good time with your family, or just be it, wherever you want to go. So, yeah, looking forward to that. That's kind of, what I want to do next year. Yeah, we'll see if I have time for that, but that's what I want to do. Yeah, yeah.
That's fun. Well, hey, I'll be in Charleston, South Carolina for this winter again. So if you're driving down to West Palm, make sure you swing through and let's cross paths, man.
For sure. We'll definitely do that, Chris.
All right, buddy. Hey, always good talking to you, Daniel. I can't thank you enough for spending the time and sharing your experiences with the Classic 4x4 podcast listeners and our audience. Again, everyone out there, come take a look at some of those builds. I mean, they are absolutely impeccable, but the prices are there and they're priced very, very, very competitively for the caliber of build it is, especially that D130. I fell in love with that D130 and I wish my client ended up actually, ironically, is going to do a bespoke build. So he passed on that D130, but that D130 is just so sharp. It is just absolutely impeccable. And I hope it finds a new home along with that two-door 110 and those two D90s that are available now. So they're on BrooklynCoachworks.com. You can check them out. But thanks again, man. I look forward to seeing you soon, bud.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Keep kicking ass on this podcast. I love listening to it. Yeah, we need more of that 4x4 community. It doesn't matter what make or mark you make. Like, just 4x4, get out there, drive your car, love what you're doing. Yeah, Jeeps, Broncos, anything. We love it. So I appreciate it, Chris.
Dude, awesome. Thanks a lot, brother.
Take it easy, man.